Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to Kucoin as episode 5, and today we are going to talk about the correlation between total USDT dominance, Bitcoin and the overall crypto market. If you don't know about Kucoin, it's one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world with over 600 billion traded volume on the platform and 10 million registered users from more than 200 different countries. Kucoin has many features like margin trading, spot trading, trading bots, staking, mining, and so on, with over 600 listed coins. If you don't have an account yet, I'll make sure to attach my referral link in the description below. And if you create an account through it, you'll benefit from 20% discounts on your trading fees. So let's get started. And as usual, cheers. For those who already know me, I always start my analysis with total, and the reason why is very simple, because you already know that the higher the time frame, the better. Because, for example, if you have a 1 hour candle and a 1 week candle, it would take more data like economic factors, volume, and so on to form this weekly candle, while it might take less data and so on to form a 1 hour candle. And of course, multiple 1 hour candles would form this 1 week candle. So one mistake traders usually make is that they will start the analysis from lower time frames and then zoom out, while you should try to start from a zoomed out picture, get an overall view about the overall market and direction, and then zoom into lower time frames to look for setups. And the exact reason why I start with total. The same logic can be applied here. And of course, for those who don't know about total, it's the total market cap, right? Including Bitcoin, all the altcoins and so on combined to like form this number, 1.4 in this case, trillion. Okay, so that's why I start with total, because for example, a 1 hour candle to me, for example, is like Bitcoin, and a 1 week candle is total, right? The same logic can be applied here, because the higher the market cap, the more reliable, just like 1 hour and 1 week, the higher the volume, the more reliable the price action, market structure, and so on, the higher the market cap in this case, or like volume, whatever you want to call it for any other asset. The higher the market cap, the more reliable the market structure would be, and the more that confident you are when you are like applying any sort of strategies on it. So that's exactly why I start with this one. For example, I don't want like to name a specific altcoin, right? Because like I don't want to endorse or like recommend a specific one. So, but like, for example, a market cap of 1 million, if you compare it to a market cap of 1.4 trillion, of course, this one is more reliable. That's why I start with it, because it includes everything. All the altcoins, Bitcoin like is almost half of the total. That's why its chart is very similar to total. Like if you check it out real quick, you can see it very clearly, right? Impulse correction, impulse are currently in this deep correction phase. That this is basically it. And of course, like the second one is Ethereum. You can also see a very similar chart between these three. And so on. Like the lower the market cap, like a little bit, you see the chart is a little bit different. Anyway, that's why I start with it. The next one I keep an eye on is USDT dominance, because like as you can see, it's highly negatively correlated with Bitcoin and total, which is like basically total, right? Because when like people are, or like traders in general, are like shifting their money from like whatever altcoin or like trading account to USDT, then you will see that the demand or the price of the USDT is going higher, because this one is in percentage, right? So the lower it gets, you know that you are currently in a bull run, because people are selling their USDT and buying, like for example, any altcoin with this USDT, so transferring from USDT to any different like crypto asset. Okay, so that's very important also to keep an eye on it. You can also check Bitcoin dominance, right? And like of course, like the altcoin dominance, which is called others.D. Okay, but let's keep it very simple for today. Total market cap and USD dominance are very important. I'll do my analysis here, and then we'll go over Bitcoin, which you can get a very good idea about where you currently are in the overall market. And then you can analyze or check whatever instruments you would like, once you know where you currently are and you know what to look for. So for total, if you remember, I've posted in the previous episodes about this one. I will not go in depth in the like analysis, because I've went over many ideas and episodes and materials. The previous ones, if you haven't watched it yet, we have 4 episodes. You can check it out. So we know that we are currently overall bearish, right? So bearish from a medium-term perspective, bullish from a long-term perspective. So we are still bullish from a long-term perspective, making higher lows and higher highs, right? So now we are expecting an impulse correction, now we are in a deep correction. We're still expecting this impulse movement upward, unless the last major low is like broken downward, which is basically here, which is also a demand zone. So that's it. An impulse, a deep correction, like almost till the previous low, like in this case, like it's higher, like unlike this case now where we have an overextended correction, but the idea is still the same. So impulse correction, we are currently in a bullish market, no matter if we go to the low or not, but as long as this low is not broken, we are still technically bullish. Of course, this is from a long-term perspective, from weekly time frame. From a shorter term one, if you go to daily, you can see that the previous low is broken downward, which confirms that the correction has started. And if you like check my previous analysis, we were waiting for a break above this area here for the bulls to take over, which didn't happen, which is the last major high on daily time frame for the correction to end. Didn't happen. We are still in a bearish market, in a big correction phase from weekly, which is technically a bearish market from a daily time frame. So for now, we are trading inside this big channel, especially after this swing yesterday or like a couple of days ago. This swing is formed, then made a lower low, then we can draw this channel here. When we draw this channel, we can get an idea about the overall direction, and which is basically this falling channel. This is our lower bound, this is our upper bound. So technically now we are trading inside this channel. This is a possible rejection for a short-term and medium-term correction, but for the bulls to take over, we still need to see a break above the major high, which might be formed around this area, which would also be a break above the channel. And the reason why we are expecting a potential reverse from here, of course, it's not like we'll zoom into lower time frames for extra confirmation. We'll do it now anyway, but we are expecting. We don't buy blindly, we don't predict, we simply wait for the market to make the first move and react accordingly. But from daily time frame, from the overall direction, we are bearish, approaching an oversold area or whatever like indicator you want to use, RSI, to identify if you are oversold. But I personally do it simply from like the chart, from like the tools, as you clearly saw. So we've got this demand area here, which I mentioned many times, that if we have a break above this trend line, which is engulfing the overall movement upward, if you have a break below it, the next rejection would be this demand, because it is not filled yet. We've got an aggressive movement upward. That's why it's a demand zone. It's a drop, base, and then a rally, right? Unlike this one, which is a rally, base, and then a rally. Anyway, don't worry about the names. That's a demand, and that's a demand. So now, in case this one is broken, or if you want to call it filled, then like it will no longer be acting as a potential rejection, and the movement till our next rejection, which is the 1 trillion, which is a very strong round number, and this demand zone, which is an even stronger one than this one. Okay, so long story short, we're expecting a bullish reversal from here. Of course, we'll be zooming into the time frame for extra confirmation. Unless it's broken, then this would be our final, or like our next. We don't really know, it might still drop lower, but like I like it's very less likely to happen. But in my opinion, of course, not financial advice, this is the lowest that we can get, at least for now. So we are now speculating this bullish movement, knowing that we are open-minded. We always keep the two possible scenarios. Meanwhile, we can still drop a little bit lower before trading higher, or even break it downward and trade higher. On daily time frame, as mentioned, we've got this area, which is the intersection of this demand and the lower bound. Of course, this lower bound is an entire zone. So from here till here, right, it's just for overall direction. If you zoom into H4 time frame, we can see that we are currently overall bearish. We were bullish previously, then price broke below the previous low. Now we are bearish, price started to make lower highs and lower lows. So that's why I always say, wait for the market to make the first move and then react accordingly. So around this area, we are making lower highs. So I don't know why anyone would think about buying around this area. always look for buy stops around the lower bound, and we wait for extra confirmation that we are now, like the buyers in this case, are taking over by at least breaking the last high. Okay, the last major high, of course, it needs to be major and not like a minor one, just like this one. So we need a big swing high and not just like a minor one. So this is a swing high, right? This is not a swing high. Okay, this is a swing high, of course, now. So next, what we'll be waiting for on total is for the price to form a new swing high. For example, it might be here, and then we'll break it upward, or it might even better if it might be around the upper like trend line. Then in this case, it would be breaking two things at the same time, the last high and the trend line, right? But we can't really know for now. We'll be monitoring price action here. You can even zoom into lower time frames. You can zoom in as much as you want and apply the same logic. From a short-term perspective on M30 and H1, you can even zoom in if you want, right? From a low short-term time frame, you know that we've got this minor high broken down upward. This is not an indication. It might be just like this one, a minor high broken upward, signaling a correction, right? So it's not indication of a reversal just yet. From a medium-term perspective, we are waiting for this to happen, a break above a major high. From a short-term one, right, this is now a very important swing that the buyers need to break, and also would break above this trend line in red, right, and signaling a correction higher till around the upper bound of this one and on H4. This is from a medium-term perspective. So short-term taking over for the medium term to start, and then medium term taking over for the longer term to start, and then long term from daily and weekly, which is the same one we saw here on in red. So we've got this one, this a small one, and then we've got this one in blue, and then we've got this one. Okay, so look at how many phases like we'll need, like for the buyers need to break before we finally say that we are now overall bullish again. Anyway, from a long-term perspective, we need to see this, right? So we are bearish from a long-term perspective, lower lows and lower highs in a correction phase, waiting for the push to take over again for the next impulse movement to start, which would be this. Of course, meanwhile, like you don't have to wait till this to happen. It depends if you are like a long-term trader, a swing trader, a scalper, and so on. It depends on your trading style, if you trade on margin or spot, and so on. But you've got the idea. So that's basically it, and let's move on to USDT. As you can see, the exact opposite chart. On weekly time frame, we are currently sitting around the upper band, right? So USDT has been trading inside this channel, impulse movements, pushing higher, right? So when you are here, we expect the price to go till the upper band, and when you are around the upper band, we expect the price to go to the lower band. Of course, it's just for over direction. We need extra confirmation to confirm it, right? So around here, we zoom into lower time frame, then wait for any kind of reversal and so on, right? But you got the idea. We are overall bullish, right? We can't really see any signs of weakness. Of course, we've got this wick now, but the weekly candle isn't closed yet. So if you go to daily time frame, we can like gather more information to understand the chart even better, right? You can see that we are still bullish, trading inside this channel, and we are currently around the upper band, which I also consider an overbought area. I don't need RSI to tell me that I'm overbought. And here we go. So upper band, lower band, lower band. Now we're expecting this, at least from a medium term perspective, and then we need to see this, right, for a reversal from a long-term perspective. But of course, for now, we take it step by step around the upper bound, which is from weekly, the brown trend line, and of course you can also see it here, right? But let's keep it from weekly. And from a short-term perspective, we are also around the upper blue trend line. We're expecting this movement. Now this zone is now a support area. It was acting as a resistance multiple times, rejecting the price downward. Now it's broken upward, which isn't that good. So for now, as price, let me delete this one. I start deleting. So now if you drop lower, this is a potential now support area, was acting as a resistance, turned into a support. So to see or like to speculate that the bears are taking over here, of course, which would mean the bulls are taking over on the crypto market. We need to see a break below this support, then a movement to our lower bound would be expected. That's how you take it step by step. Now, if you zoom into lower time frames, just like the way we did it on total, so this is it. And if you zoom even lower on H1, you can see that we got a very similar trend line that we saw on H1 on total. So we took out this minor low. Now we are waiting for this low to be broken, which is basically for now here, right? So like this aggressive movement upward. If we form a new low, a major one, then we will consider that this one is the one which I call my trigger swing, which like will signal that the bears are taking over. But clearly now this bears took over here from a short-term perspective, just like on total, the bulls took over here from a short-term perspective. Short-term, it can still result in an impulse movement downward. It's short-term, it can still result in an impulse movement upward before we see this movement. Okay, so that's basically it. Now we know we are in the market. Sorry about that. So now we will go over Bitcoin, and that's it. So on Bitcoin, we can see that from weekly time frame, we are also overall bullish. We are trading kind of inside a big range, upper bound, lower bound, and so on. So now approaching the lower bound, which has been respected multiple times, which is the 30K zone, which you hear everyone talking about. So the 30K is a very strong area. It's a demand as an aggressive movement upward from it, a support, multiple rejections from it. And in this case, if you have this channel, which we can see better from daily time frame, so which is for the overall, sorry about that, the overall direction, it's currently approaching the lower band. So this is indeed a very strong area, a demand, a support, and the lower bound of this channel. We're expecting a correction. It's just a correction. That doesn't mean that we are now overall bullish from a long-term perspective. For the buyers to take over from a long-term perspective, we need to see this and a break above this high. Okay, we need a break above the major high, a break above the 40K zone, and above this trend line in green, which if this happens, then all the three would be broken. Okay, meanwhile, we can still drop lower and lower from a long-term perspective, and every movement upward would be just a correction. Okay, so we might trade higher, reject it lower, right, like this, trade higher, reject even lower, and then, for example, like this, before we break upward. Okay, always wait for market to make the first move and then react accordingly. Meanwhile, and on lower time frames, you can even zoom in and like look for any potential reversals here to identify when the correction is about to start, right? Exact same logic. You zoom in and whatever suits your trading plan, your time, your risk appetite, and so on. This is from H4. Now we need to catch, for example, this. We need to zoom in even lower. Now from a medium-term perspective, we are bearish, and here would be a potential rejection zone for another leg down. However, from daily, we need to see a break above this, right? A break above this, which is from H4, trade higher, form the swing, and then break the swing upward. In this case, we'll be looking also for buy setups here, just like we are doing here. Knowing that we can still drop lower and lower inside the 30K before trading higher. How do we know? If we go to H1, I guess M30. Okay, I don't have it here in this case, but the exact same trend line that we saw on of course, like this is a weird looking one, but just for over direction, that the bulls took over here from a short-term perspective. This is the last major low. Of course, it should be here, but this is like to know that the buyers are not only breaking above this minor one, but also above this like medium one. So if this happens and we break above it, we know that the bulls are taking over for the correction to start from H4. Meanwhile, we can still trade lower and lower, or even stop inside the consolidation, form a channel, and then break it upward, or even dive inside. Let me show you inside the 30K zone to fill some orders here around 29, 28, I don't know where, before we trade higher. Okay, so wait for it to make the first move and then react accordingly. That's basically it for this video. I try to keep it as simple as possible, and we'll go over like basic market structure analysis and Yeah, on total, we know where we are in the market from a long-term perspective. On USDT, we know if people are selling their USDT to buy coins or vice versa, selling their coins to hold it as a USDT. And for Bitcoin, this is also very important to know the overall direction of the overall market. Best of luck, and I'll see you on the next episode.